So they're going to sell. Now they have to come to an agreement on what's it's worth. We had clients in here a couple weeks ago. This was they had everything settled. The house was actually paid off in cash, so they were in good shape financially. The issue was, what is the house worth? So if they're going to divide it evenly, coming to a fair market value. And in this case, one party thought the house was worth $50,000 more than the other party, and they're looking at comparisons and all that. But what's the best way to come to an idea? Do they get independent appraisers? Do they get independent agents to do like a comparative market analysis? These particular clients, I said, look, you're talking about $50,000 in whole. It's really $25,000 to you if they're dividing, which they're like, okay, well, it's not that bad. But if they could meet in the middle, I mean, there's lots of options.
It's always said there's 3 values for a home. And it's like when you're buying a business, there's 3 sets of records. There's, what the owner's going to give you to sell it to show you that it's awesome. There's going to be what it really makes, so he knows exactly where he is every month, and then it's going to be the other one's what he shows the IRS, which is going to be a lot less than it really makes. Mm-hmm. With a home valuation, it's kind of the same thing, because you have the agent that's going to probably try to tell you what you want to hear in order to secure the listing.
Right.
Unfortunately, that seems to be more the case than the exception. The other value happens to come in where what you think it's worth, and then finally really what it's worth. So the way that we do it, and I think any good agent would, is we have to look at factual properties that have closed escrow, and we have to stack those properties up, making allowances plus or minus whatever percentage points or real amounts for the different amenities that their property might have versus the ones that we're able to compare it with. So the other thing you mentioned was an appraisal. Yeah, if it's a big deal, then you could hire an independent appraiser to go out and evaluate the property and establish that value. So that's probably the cleanest way, because with the agent, now you got to trust them.
Right.
And I'm not trying to put us down as an industry, but the worldview isn't so good. If that agent comes, sits both of you down and looks at the sold comparable properties, comparing apples to apples, not gaming the system, having you be able to verify that those are true and indeed the actual comparables within 6 months, within a half-a-mile radius, comparing the same types of property to your property, and being able to verify that with a non-realtor based source online, somewhere else that wouldn't have any reason to game you, then that's also another good way.
Yeah, it's interesting because when people are splitting, say in this particular case they had the house paid off, but now they're splitting up and they need to cash out.
Right.
So he wanted to keep the home, so he just took out a second. He had the financial ability to qualify for that and cash her out. But the questions that became were, what's it worth? And do we use today's fair market value? What if the property declines in value a month later, or we see this decline in market and the half is a lot less then? Do you take the fair market value, let's say there's $100,000 in equity based on the appraised value, and do you just say, well, $50,000 is half, or do you take out that percentage of the sale? As far as, there's a lot of ways you can really convolute this, or you can just say, you know what, there's $100,000 in equity if we sold. Because you could count in commissions and escrow and title fees and whittle that down by 10 or 15 grand.
Sure.
So I think what people need to do is just move on. Don't fight over the pennies. Just focus on the meat, not the potatoes, if you will.
Right. And what we talked about kind of at the beginning, usually in a lot of cases, one of those spouses, they don't want to go. It's not their ideal scenario to be divorced.
Right.
So a lot of times that's where a lot of the wrenches are going to come in. And, they're hiring you to do a service. They hire me to do a service. My service is to try to balance everything so nobody gets hurt as a result of them wanting to sell this piece of real property. Ultimately, that's the goal. Commission aside, success aside, all this other stuff aside, that protection's important. And them having all the facts to be able to make good decisions.
Yeah.